Hey guys, my name's James.
My name's Corwin.
And welcome
My
to...
name's Chris Paul.
Wow, James!
I already ruined it.
And welcome to This Movie's Gay.
And welcome to This Movie's Gay. Thanks. You can give your name again, just because James ruined it and interrupted you?
Because Corwin loves the theatrics, but when he introduces our guests, it's as if he has never been on the stage one day in his life. Can I introduce our guest?
Sure.
Introduce me. Yeah,
You know
please.
him for his work on movies, feature films such as The Edge of 17, The Revenant, Interstellar. These blue blocking glasses make it very hard for me to read anything because I wrote in red, so it's very difficult. The Christmas Chronicle 2, and as a co-writer, co-producer, and star of Summerland, we have Chris Ball.
Woo!
Woo! Chris Ball is here.
How are you?
Hello. I'm great. I'm super excited for this, you guys. It's really funny how this panned out, Corwin, because I think I tweeted you back when we released Summerland in like September or October, and then and I didn't think it went anywhere. I mean, I was tweeting everybody. I was tweeting like celebrities that I was following. I was tweeting podcasts that I like. And I tweeted you to watch the movie, and you're like, yeah, we'll get around to it. And I was like, they're not gonna get around to it. and then my friend sent me this podcast and was like, dude, there's this podcast that's talking about Summerland. Have you seen it? And sure enough, you guys watched it like I think like a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
It just took us a minute to get around to it because we had like a schedule of movies already and like guests, and we're just like, okay, and then half of those didn't even pan out. So like we could have just done the movie, and it's fine. It's been pandemic times. It's a new format for us.
And we're down to 2 a month, like every other week, opposed to a year ago, we were every single week.
I had to see James and deal with his antics every single week, sometimes multiple times a week, like depending on the week. Yeah, it was so much.
I just have to say, James, the only reason I agreed to go on this podcast was to tell you that in the hotly debated topic of my package in the movie, I had to come on and just set the record straight and just tell you that it is in fact just disappointingly average. It's just the underwear. And when we released the movie, there was a hot debate between everybody of which vegetable I was stuffing my underwear with, whether it was like a mini cucumber or a zucchini. And I'm here to tell you it's disappointingly average. Thank you for
all natural.
Thank you for pumping my tires. Yeah, thank you for pumping my tires, but I just wanted to squash that right away.
And we know you aren't pumping that Deedle because it's hefty, it's natural, and they're on the screen for people to see in underwear.
Yeah, that's the curse of the Andrew Christian underwear. It does wonders. Let me tell you. Now, Corwin, now you know what we're getting James for Christmas, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's do it.
I need more underwear.
Oh, God.
I still have underwear from high school that I wear. They're clean.
Like Fruit of the Loom.
It's just like normal, like boxer brief.
Yeah. Checkered boxers.
Yeah, I don't like spending money, so... And when I did, like I bought underwear maybe like a year or two ago, it's just there's no room for my unit.
Yeah, no,
and
for sure.
I don't even have...
the gay underwear will help you with that,
okay.
James.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you were like, hey, I'd be interested, I was like, let me DM him, because as soon as he gets on the show, it's either not going to be brought up at all, or the first thing we talk about is going to be James talking about your package.
100%. That's why I'm here.
I feel like every single movie that I make a note, or one time Nicole made note, of someone in the movie, of their endowedness or their breasts, of like a laser focus, one thing on a very short like frame. Those people always listen to the show and they're like, hey, thanks, I guess, for saying that.
Yeah, James, it's one way to get people on the podcast, eh?
You know, it would make me feel good to say that you're the first person that James has just talked about their package on the podcast, but you're not. You're not.
Oh God,
no!
no!
I'm so sorry.
And hopefully not the last.
I hope
Hopefully
not.
not the last. Jay, and it's funny because people are like, "Oh, Corwin, you're a slut," and I'm like, "Okay, yes, I am." And then I'm not the one talking about people's packages on the podcast. It doesn't make sense. I guess I need to do better, is what I'm hearing from myself.
I think maybe because like I'm not like I mean, am I objectifying? But like because I am straight. It doesn't sound as slutty. Like if you were lusting after someone's penal unit, they would be like, wow, okay, slow down. But me just casually remarking on someone's chiseled figure, I think it's slightly different.
So you know what's funny is like I did an interview where I mentioned that like I resisted the actor's urge to like get into really good shape for the role. And the reason was, and this is a true story, is like at the time I was like, I felt that I did kind of feel the pressure. I was like, I got to work out. I got to be super skinny, right? All this stuff, like all those kind of pressures from the gay community that Corwin, I'm sure you can relate to. But my boyfriend at the time was like, well, don't, like, this movie's all about breaking stereotypes. Like you should just be yourself, because you're basically playing yourself in this movie. Like you should go against all that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You know, I'm gonna make a statement and fight the stereotype. And like, I thought this was a good thing. Like I still think it is a good thing. But I caught a little bit of flack on Twitter online because somebody was like, he's not even in that bad of shape. Like, what is he talking about? Like, he thinks he's a hero for like not working out for the role, when in reality he's super handsome and looks really good in underwear. And I was like, this is not going the direction that I wanted it to. And I was like, I thought I'm trying to like do something good here. I was just playing like my normal average bodied person. And I at that point I kind of just had to stop looking at Twitter. And then James commented on my package, and now I'm on the podcast talking about it. So.
Hell yeah.
You know, full circle. It's fine.
Corwin, Sean
What's
Penn.
up?
Oh my God, that Deedle. Now he'll be on the show.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice good segue to milk.
Oh well, I should have waited because I do have something to comment on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
As Corwin said, I don't know if it was during the podcast recording or not today, that I don't recognize chat. However, I looked at chat last night after the stream was done, and they fucking love me. I now am a champion of chat. I still will not look at you because then I won't be in the moment like you guys want me to be. It would be bad for chat if I was looking at you. However, now I recognize you as an entity during these recordings instead of just shoving you to the back of a closet as, you know, like, wow. I don't know, mushrooms to get high on.
Wow.
Because now that's actually what they are. I'll look later and get high on them.
Chat typically loves you. Whenever I do my normal streams, there are a few people that are like, hey, did you tell James that thing? And I'm like, not yet, because I hate him. But not really. It's mostly about eating potato salad on buns.
Hell yes.
The amount of times that's been brought up to me.
Yes.
I need an emote or something for it at this point, really. Yeah, I don't know what else I was going to say prior, but Chris, thank you for taking the time to, like, you know, be here and talk to us. Knowing that James has objectified you in that sense. And also that was what I was going to talk about, the thing. I think a lot of the, like, people seeing like average body types and being like, they're not average, is like the confidence that you have whenever you're like portraying that. Like, or whatever, you're like, you know, living in your own skin. Like, there are people that are definitely not what the gay community would see as the average or thin. And if that person is just like confident, like a lot of it can be like skewed, I guess. Confidence just does a lot. Is
yeah,
my,
like
my whole thing.
100%. Like my average body type in the movie, like when I was younger, when I was like 17, 18, like I was not seen as like a skinny twink in the gay community. Like it's really, it's our community is horrible for that.
100%. And that's a wonderful point. And we need to talk about that in future episodes with other movies that deal with that. Obviously. Yeah. What's up, James?
Well, like body image, it should all be like from you, like how you feel about yourself. So me, I think my body's fucking disgusting, and I wish I could change.
I think you look great, James.
You look great, James.
You look great. You look great, babe.
I wish I could see with your guys' eyes. Corwin, next time I see you, I'm going to take out them eyes. We'll swap, and then, I don't know.
I don't want your eyes, James.
Why? Because they're filthy.
Too much blue light damage, apparently.
Too much blue light damage.
There actually is. Yeah.
I mean, my glasses have the filter on them, but like you don't see it. It's not just like a red glasses. They just, it's got the thing there.
I need a heavy duty.
And Corwin's hair is so beautiful. Aw, thank you, Dalai Lama.
Whoa, the Dalai Lama's in the chat. They're friends with Beastie Boys MCA.
It's an in real life friend of mine from college. So let's. Did you have anything else that you'd like to say, Chris? Anything to add on top of this?
I'm cool. I'm ready. I'm ready to jump into it. I'm sure everything will go 100% as planned. I'm sure that's a joke. It won't. It's cool. We'll just go with it.
We'll go with the flow, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So this week we have the privilege of talking to Chris Ball about a movie that he cares about a lot, and I do too. And we just haven't had an opportunity to do it on the podcast yet. We did the movie Milk about the politician Harvey Milk. And like all guests, Chris, we're going to put you on the spot and say, hey, can you give us a quick synopsis of this movie?
Yeah. Hi. Hello, everyone. Milk is about the first openly gay elected official in San Francisco named Harvey Milk. And his campaign in office, his life leading up to his assassination in 1978, which it's about so much more, though. I mean, Harvey Milk really started the gay rights movement. When we think about a movement, when we think about marching in the streets for marriage equality and things like that in recent years, it goes all the way back to this. A lot of people are familiar with Stonewall. Stonewall definitely kicked it off in a certain way, but Harvey Milk is in kind of what brought it to mainstream audiences. He was the first elected gay official, and really kind of just put it on the map and got people to think about it in terms of in public office in a way that affects teachers and policemen and firemen, not just people rioting on the streets.
Yeah, wonderful quick synopsis, and I cannot think explanation of who Harvey Milk is. So the reason that we haven't done this so far is that I have always been like a little afraid to jump into the historical movies because I mean, I'm knowledgeable about gay history to an extent, but like, when people come and ask me questions, I'm like, oh, let me Google, please. So you came out with dates right away. Wow. Very professional. I should also add, so I worked on a TV show called When We Rise by Dustin Lance Black, who wrote Milk, and directed by Gus Van Sant, who directed Milk. And the TV show was about the gay rights movement in the 70s. It was basically Milk as a miniseries. And so it was through that. I had never even seen Milk before I worked on the show. And it was through that and working with Cleve Jones, who is played by Emil Hirsch in the movie. So I really kind of got like a front row seat to the history of the movement, and that's kind of really what sparked my love for not only the movement but also the movie Milk. So like gay history, it's my jam. So that's why I'm really excited that you wanted to do the film, and I love showing the movie to straight people. I don't mean like, or just anybody, not straight people, but anybody. Yeah, because it's always like it's the perfect movie to really show like, hey, like this is the gay rights movement. This is what people had to go through in a way that's like in a story that's told just so well. And so it's like you have like RuPaul's Drag Race on one end of the spectrum. And then I really honestly think like Milk is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like you gotta, you know what I mean? Like, just like, this is kind of the history and the real kind of the raw story and character of it. So James, what did you think?
Oh, I loved it. I was engaged, opposed to last week's or yesterday's episode. No, I really enjoyed it. It's a movie that I've always wanted and have been interested in seeing, so I'm glad we finally did this. And it was one that it's like, wow, I can't believe we haven't done that. But our first year was mainly just us on Tubi TV finding indie gay movies, and that is why it's taken us a while to start doing these blockbusters.
Vampire Boys,
All the eating outs, yeah.
Dinah Stud, something. There was a musical about Jesus.
It was not a musical. It says, hey, this is a musical. And it's not until like an hour and 15 in it, before we get our first song, it was Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Oh yeah,
okay.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember what it was called.
You guys have been doing like the hidden gems and like Summerland, and it's only So I'm happy to be on your first like inaugural like. It was like Oscar winner, won for best screenplay, and Sean Penn won for best actor.
Yeah, we've just started getting into those. Really, I mean, we watched Paris is Burning a few weeks ago.
How was that?
Before watching it for the podcast, I'd seen most of it anyway, because that's also like huge gay history, and it was great being able to do an episode on it. And we had one of our friends, TC, do the episode, which was wonderful. We also did Brokeback Mountain, and what other big ones have we done? I mean, we watched Love, Simon like last year.
Probably our biggest one is Nicole and I's favorite, Gay Bed and Breakfast of Terror. Oh my God,
that is not the biggest movie. That was like our third movie we watched. We started because James wanted to see horror movies that were gay, and I was like, okay, well, horror is horror's a genre that has a lot of queer tones to it, but not necessarily all of them are going to be explicitly queer. So we went to those and moved on to the hidden gems, and threw in a few other ones. Like Pride is the closest one we've done that is similar to Milk, and that it shows some of the gay rights movements.
Well, and the
history in England.
The history is so important because, like, when so many kids, I say kids, I'm not even that old. I'm only 30, but kids that like kids that are watching like RuPaul's and when they see like all these references to all these old queens from the 70s and 80s, and a lot of them don't have any idea of the history. That's why it's so important. Luckily now there's like lots of great shows, like It's a Sin. Is really good. There's a lot of great history. Paris is Burning. There's a lot of these movies that are coming out that are starting to go back in time and kind of explore that history. But Milk was kind of the one of the first, at least, that really told that history and kind of got some buzz. I wouldn't say it was a blockbuster, but like got some Oscar buzz. It was kind of one of the first, at least in my generation. So
I mean, it's a beautifully made film. It's got a lot of big actors, and it tells an important story. So, I mean, I think you're 100% right. And it came out in 2008. So like it did a lot, I think, overall for queer film and telling queer stories, which is, whatever you suggested that, like, I thought you were going to suggest another hidden gem or something and be like, let's do this movie, or like something that you were involved in and stuff, which would have been amazing. Yeah. But as soon as you said Milk, I was like, wow, yes,
and you remember at first I suggested a gay horror movie that I actually produced. But then I was like, nah, like they've already done something that I did, and Milk is very near and dear to my heart. So I'm really glad we got to jump into it. So yeah, so how does it work? What was it like? What was your favorite part? What was your favorite part, James? That's what I want to know.
Normally we just like get into notes.
Do that.
Okay, so first, I don't know if this was the cops or reporters, whatever. Fuck these assholes for filming these raids. And people had to, obviously, like, they don't want their faces being seen because then they're outed to their families. It's just number one assholery of like, hey, we're gonna do all this footage. You don't need to do that. This isn't fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre where you're like, hey, I'm gonna be going around and then Leatherface is here. No. Did
you notice that some of their eyes were blacked out?
Yeah.
Or like in the footage. So that's all. Yeah, it's all real footage too. That's in the film. And so their eyes were blocked out because those were like public officials, or maybe they were cops too. A lot of cops were even at these underground bars, and firemen and stuff like that. And these are all people that, of course, would have lost their jobs if they were outed at the time.
Damn. That fucking blows. Also, I really do like a line that Harvey Milk said, speaking of firefighters. He was talking to Brolin. I don't know names.
Dan White?
Yes, talking to Dan White, and Dan goes, oh, you don't like cops? And he was like, oh, they don't like me. Firefighters, they're the real heroes. And I think in our cop-obsessed United States that firefighters are constantly the butt of all jokes in these cop shows. And why aren't there, as like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think they're the correct pivot they should have done, just without any comment, make all of them firefighters, and it is now a firefighter sitcom. It would have been funny.
I would love to see a spinoff. I would love to see like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine type show about firefighters. First of all, I think that'd be awesome.
And Patton Oswalt's already canonically is a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the show. Or even like EMTs. There was a show that was set in Chicago that was filmed in Chicago too.
Scrubs?
Partially.
Scrubs?
Not Scrubs. That was EMTs. They were like ambulance drivers and things.
I know the show you're talking about. I just
remember what it's called.
Scrubs was good too. Scrubs was a great show.
Yeah. So like, pivot to one of those. Yeah, but I mean, what Harvey was saying, like a lot of in queer history, queer people and police have not gotten along.
Wait, police haven't gotten along with a minority group? I'm so shocked. Right?
So like,
they're they're the biggest assholes in the world.
It's got to be acknowledged. It's got to be said. It's not Chicago. Oh, there is Chicago Fire. Chicago Fire exists.
Oh yeah, no, those shows are garbage though. Those shows are like
we're talking about Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. Need a good sitcom with firefighters. Also, firefighters, I think, I hate to say this, I'm sure there's gonna be many people that are policemen and women that give me flack for this, but firefighters are typically a lot hotter. Like, when you think of like the gay calendar, you don't really think about the policeman calendar. It's usually firefighters because there's got the pole, they got the hoses. It's a much sexier job.
Yeah, I think I heard someone make a joke about that actually, that they're like, why aren't there like police calendars? And it's someone said that, it's because you'd have to hide their like racist tattoos. That's why they don't exist.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like, a gun, it's kind of heavy. You don't need a lot of muscle to pick that up, but like a hose that is firing out many pressures
fully
per second.
Charged, squirting blowing water at somebody. Like that's hot.
You need those muscles to tame that wild floppy beast.
Yeah.
Firefighters,
and you watch a movie like Milk, and it doesn't really bastardize police. It literally just shows like all that footage. It's all real. Like I thought it did a great job of like, like first of all, I hate the kind of all cops are bastards kind of thing. There's obviously so much more nuance that needs to be had in the conversation. Movies like Milk don't go one way or the other. It's historical facts. That's all it is. It's not making any generalizations or conclusions. It's just showing you the facts and showing you what happened. And I thought the film obviously did a great job of that.
Yeah, they didn't take anything and try to be like, oh no, it's this. They literally just showed us real footage.
Yeah, exactly. And when that happens, it's like, there's no argument. You can't do anything. You're just like, oh fuck, this happened. This movie's heavy. Like we're in for it.
That's when the people are like, oh well, it was the times, and it's like, well, those times are now. Like this wasn't that long ago. Hello. Mm-hmm. Those people are still alive, all of them. Yeah. Like they were living through that.
Yeah, and like luckily, the way I try to explain it is like, people are like, oh, I can't believe that like that happened so long ago. I'm so glad the times are better. It's like times are arguably better. Like, I mean, police actually do help solve the crime when a gay person is murdered now, or in the 70s, as Milk pointed out, like they did fuck all. But it has gotten better. But actually, the way that I look at it is now, instead of all those battles being fought underground, where like you've just got these like shaky cam footage from the bars being raided and you don't know who's involved. There's definitely less battles, but those battles are now just fought in the public. Like really, I think that's the big difference. Well, certainly there is a lot less police brutality against the LGBT community, at least in major cities. And again, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but I think that now those battles are just being fought out in the public sphere is really the biggest difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, because marriage has been legalized in the United States nationally, like, there's no longer that excuse for cops to like raid gay bars and things like that. So it is all going up to battles with your representatives. who are still like literally to this day trying to take away rights for minorities across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, they see these movies and they're like, that's fake, or try to, you know, put their own religion or their own viewpoints onto the masses for no reason. Yeah. James, did you have anything to say on that, or did you have any more notes?
Yeah, I'll keep going with notes.
Keep going.
It wouldn't be an episode without talking about mic technique. Milk is eating that microphone in these like interview pieces, and it does not have a windscreen on it. Like he can put it a little bit. I get it. Like people weren't used to recording devices back then, but I see that, and I really a great thing is in Mindhunter. There is a scene where like someone is eating the mic and another person's like, hey, you can actually just put that off to the side. It's going to pick up everything in the room. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much, Mindhunter, for letting people know this.
I love how this is the hill that James is going to die on. Like this is like...
you don't even, we had an entire ass conversation yesterday about it, and he's still going to keep on. It's going to be the rest of my life, mic technique.
Chill. Also, another thing about me, whipped cream on the face, like you see James Franco, I believe, do that to Harvey Milk. Don't do that, guys. You're gonna have to take a shower. You can't just like wipe that off. It's sticky.
But it's cute, James. It's cute and romantic.
Oh,
James doesn't like food touching him or touching food or anything like that. I would bring him he lived near a bakery, so I'd bring him every time I went to his apartment to record. I would bring him like croissants and stuff, and he would take out a fork and a knife and just like
and a plate.
You gotta get your hands in there, bro.
Oh no. No.
It's James's worst nightmare. I want to make a movie that is all of James's worst nightmares. Bad mic technique, touching food on your face. What else?
Well, at least James is very sanitary, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
You should set this movie in the basement of 1492 Havana Street in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where some very bad stuff happened to me as a child.
Oh no, James!
I would never watch the movie. Like I still have nightmares, and then luckily I've realized what those nightmares are about. I mean, also not luckily. It's good that I don't have them anymore and I don't wake up screaming, but it's bad that it happened. But off from that,
off from James's trauma that he loves to bring up live on podcasts, but not in person.
Well, yeah, that's just weird. I need to monetize my trauma, Corwin. If they can make us rich, this is not a direct quote, but this is pretty much what most old rich white men say is if this group of people can make us rich, I'll say they deserve to be alive. Because there's a quick scene where a bunch of gays go into a bar of someone who was like, hey, we don't want your kind around here. And then, of course, like once they pack the bar, he's like, hey, you like us now? And it just sucks that has to, like, money has such a hold on people.
That Harvey Milk like packed the neighborhood with gay men in certain businesses that supported queer people as opposed to the businesses that did not, and like made sure no one shopped there. Yeah, you know, money talks apparently in America.
And there's businesses that didn't support the gays. They would boycott them, and then those businesses would go out of business. But there were a couple places where they didn't always do that too. Like even though like the guy who ran the liquor store across the street did not like them and he was an asshole, but Harvey would make a point. So he still packed, or he would still pack the bar or the business sometimes, even though he knew they didn't like him, just almost like a power move, you know, like a power flex to be like, look, like. I've got this many people in your bar. I can shut it down anytime I want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was. I love that point. It's not a bad point, because I mean it's like that shit still exists today, right? It's like, well, it's like, you know, you've got politicians that will bend to the mercy of like who get them the most votes or the most or the most money, and you got to remember at the time people didn't know that gays were that big in the population. Like people thought it was like, people thought it was a mutation. It was this weird thing back then, right? This is before AIDS. This is before. So like to do that was also Harvey Milk's way of showing you like, look at how many of us there are. In a way to be like, like you can't, you can't run from us. It's like, like we could be your brother, we could be your sister, we could be anything. It was very much a power move, and he knew what he was doing. He was a very good politician that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it got brought up towards the end of the movie too, with him talking to the mayor and being like, "Hey, you're up for re-election. You want to win? I can make sure you don't." And the mayor's like, you just sounded like Mayor Daley or I don't remember who else he said, but like these people that, have this political power. And it's like this openly gay man, one of the first in political office, has that kind of power. So that's why I feel the movie like sets you up to show how, how shocking it was that he was assassinated, and how much that sort of hurts everyone really, because he was so supportive of, gay rights movement, but also was collaborating with other communities as well. So,
Yeah, and he wasn't perfect. He wasn't. He was still very much a politician. He had to give, like any politician, he still had to give sacrifices and compromise here, like to try, in favor of his movement and for as you would call it back then, his people. And so the movie did a great job of showing that he wasn't, he wasn't perfect. Like sometimes, he had to make those kind of power moves and act like a politician in many ways, but it was all for the good of the movement.
Yeah.
Which I did want to bring up, like, this is like a serious subject, not my normal goofs. When you like see some like older gays that you're like, oh, they're going to be on the same page as us and like all political stuff. And then you like hear them do kind of like some really like fucked Republican views. And you're like, wow, what? You had to live a progressive life just by living, unfortunately. And why do you think that? But this movie, I think, kind of demonstrated why, because Harvey Milk had to be like, hey, I will back you. Will you back me? And then the other politician is like, only if you can get all the gays on my side for this thought or this bill or this law. And it's like, then he had to go say like, hey guys, we all, I guess, believe this. And maybe that's why, I don't know. This is something that I don't think any of us could really comment on because of our age. We got to get someone who's like 50 plus on Sunday.
No, I mean, that goes into how like politics and just like views in general, everything is like intersectional. Like, so because I am a, white gay man, that doesn't change that I'm white. So I still have the privilege from that. So, whenever you're talking about things like that, you also have to take into consideration the person's ethnicity, their socioeconomic background, what class they are, because like, people that are super wealthy are going to be a lot different than we are.
Yeah.
And their views are going to be a lot different. So just because like I'm gay, I'm not going to have the same views as like, some rich gay white man in Manhattan. It's just not going to be like the same.
Yeah. And also just because you have one sexuality doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow all of those political leanings. You just because you're a gay man doesn't mean you have to follow all of the liberal leanings. I know it's always really funny. I'm obviously I'm very liberal. I mean, you can tell by my shirt. It's colorful. It's fun. And but what's funny is like when the issue of like guns come up, I'm like yeah, like I like guns. Like I think I should be able to own guns. People are like, what? But you're a liberal and you're gay. And it's like, well, yeah, but like I like shooting guns. Like it's, you know what I mean? There's so many little things here and there that like I'll tell you. Give you one example. I was in LA close to election night 2016, and I walked by a gay bar, and they had a big sign that said "Twinks for Trump." And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was mind blown, utterly baffled. But again, like, and chances are, like, when you talk to these people or you talk to these twinks for Trump, and they explain their background, maybe it's their family background, where they grew up, and why they have those political leanings, you're kind of like, okay, that makes sense. There's so much more nuance, that I think we get stuck with branding people like, oh, if you're this, you therefore have to be this. If you're old, you have to have this kind of political leaning. And when Corwin, as you said, there's so many other factors. The important thing is just to take the 10 minutes, not even take the 5 minutes, just to talk to that person. And chances are you'll completely understand where they come from and why they think those things.
Mm-hmm. I guess I should have prefaced it of, like, I've heard, like, some older gays be on, like, civil rights issues, be on, like, the wrong side, and I'm like, what? How?
Totally.
I don't understand. What are you talking about? Or, like, I guess, like, if, class status of also being, like, so against, like, poverty and stuff, and I mean, everyone should be against poverty. I mean, like, against poor people, I should say.
Well, and a good example in the movie, when Harvey Milk's trying to get an endorsement from the newspaper, and the head of the San Francisco Advocate, who was openly gay, and this is all a true story. He wouldn't back Harvey Milk because he's like, well, like, for the best interest of the newspaper, we have to back these other candidates that are helping the newspaper, that are helping the corporate interests of the company. And that's like an openly gay man that was going against, Harvey Milk. And there's a great scene when he shows up to the party after Harvey Milk's won, and Cleve Jones doesn't let him into the party. Like, but that's the perfect example. It's just like, sometimes you don't know in the moment when you're on the verge of being on the right or wrong side of history, right? It's it's only through hindsight that you can look back and say, like, hey man, remember when you said that shit? That was kind of fucked up, wasn't it? Like, you can't, like, oh, what's about to happen? You just kind of have to place your bets. And that's why what I always tell people with, we're getting into it now. I had an ex-boyfriend who had a very, very religious family. Actually, I think I even mentioned this in the movie. My first boyfriend was sent to a conversion center. And once he came out of the conversion center straight, like, or at least he, thought he was straight. And one thing, he would say about his family is he said, he's like, my family doesn't know any better because they're religious, and we have to give them grace and understanding, helping them to understand this issue. And I said, think about what you just said. Put yourself in, like, let's go back 60 years or 70 years with the civil rights movement when Black people couldn't vote. Now, looking back on that now, would you go back in time to those people that were against Black people voting and having equal rights? Would you say to them, like, we just had to give them grace and understanding with this? And you'd say, no, of course not. Like, look at what happened. Of course, like, we've got a clear cut right and wrong. But in many ways, we're in those same moments today with those people that think the same things. And on one hand, I really do think it's almost impossible to get those people to see, to kind of see the similarities between those moments in history, and to be able to put themselves and say, am I in this moment of history? Like, do I want to be on the right side or the wrong side of history? But in many ways, it's just like, you can't, I don't know where I was going with that, but
I mean,
James, wrap it up. James, put a button on that for me.
I'll try to go somewhere with that. So, I mean, there's a certain amount of, whenever you're looking at morality, it can sort of be subjective in a sense. But, like, if you look at things that are obviously wrong, like slavery, obviously wrong, you can talk to someone like those people that you argue with about, right and wrong, or like being on the right side of history, with like letting trans people use the bathrooms that they want to use, things like that. They're going to say, well, it's not the time. It's not, they'll say things like slavery was okay back then. But we know that historically they had contemporaries back then that were like, no, slavery is bad. You're on the wrong side of history. And they were.
Yeah. But you need enough. I think the important thing is you need enough people. You need enough people on board. Sometimes. Okay, I remember what I was going to say. Sometimes it's impossible to get through to those single people. Those, like, it's like you'll never win over. Oh, what was it that Harvey Milk said? You'll never win over minds. You'll win over hearts. Like
Yeah.
you can bombard people with facts all you want, but at the end of the day, you have to win over their hearts. And until you do that, so you really just need to get enough people to really kind of force a sea change, which is what Harvey Milk did with Prop 6 in the movies.
Yeah.
He didn't win over with facts. He could have gone out there and said, well, one in three people is gay or whatever. But what he did was he convinced enough people across the country to come out. It was National Coming Out Day, which is also Cleve Jones's birthday. And so by enough people coming out, that just showed everyone who was about to vote on Prop 6 for this bill that was going to ban homosexual teachers and fire them. It just showed like enough people. You just get enough people to be like, oh shit, my brother's sister's boyfriend is actually gay. You just get enough people to know somebody who's gay, and then that's like that you've won them over.
Yeah, that was a beautiful move in the movie, and
we got there.
we got there, and I was gonna bring that up. That him getting that really helped push the gay rights movement, is because it's hard to put yourself in a situation in like a political leaning where you're not involved at all, and that's where I'm saying, James, like with the socioeconomic factor or your ethnicity and things like that, like it's hard sometimes to be able to empathize and put yourself in those people's shoes whenever you're not involved in that community. If you didn't know a single person that was trans, how would you feel about the issues? I mean, we would hope that if we didn't, that we would be able to, empathize and put ourselves in those shoes and to be able to make informed decisions like that. But that's not necessarily always going to be the case, especially when you have issues like back then with the gay rights issues, where you have a lot of people that grow up, especially in like the countryside and in the Bible Belt, with just strictly Christian upbringings where it's saying being gay is bad, and hearing this proposition and not knowing that, I know 10 different gay people that this will personally affect them.
Whereas if you didn't know the gay people, your only exposure was people telling you it was just like, Christian was a lot of like in small town rural areas, like the Christian, the pastors and Christian newspapers, even pretty much the equivalent of misinformation. The misinformation that we have today was alive and well back then, saying that all gays are pedophiles and that they're child molesters. And like literally, if that's the only thing that you think, you're like, well, of course they can't be teachers. They're gonna, it's like it was really that narrow. You didn't have the internet. You couldn't just Google somebody like you, or it was you just like you didn't know anybody that was gay, so you're relying on your parents telling you like, oh, gay people are terrible people, it's a sin, and this and that, and so of course that's how you're going to vote. But then to turn on the TV and you see people like gay people talking on the news, and you see them rioting in the streets and protesting, and you see like, whoa, that's 1,000 gay people on the TV. They don't look that bad. They're not molesting children. It was like people had to see it for the first time. You know what I mean? And that's why Prop 6 was so important.
Yeah. Any other notes, James?
Yeah, I do have one quick question for you, Chris.
Shoot.
Did your parents write your IMDb trivia?
I didn't even know that I have an IMDb trivia. I don't even know what it says.
Would you like to know what it is?
Yes, I would.
Dropped out of high school.
Is that all it says?
That is your only trivia on IMDb. Who wrote that? We need to know now.
Thanks, Dad.
Is this true?
Yeah, that is true.
All right, we can cite this podcast as clarification.
Yeah, you can cite that on the Wikipedia. Wow, I didn't even know that. Thanks, Dad. I'm assuming he submitted that.
Wow.
No, I did. I didn't drop out, actually. So I had enough. My grades were fine. It was like I had enough grades to get it. But this was the first year that our school did this thing where if you had too many absences, you couldn't graduate.
Oh.
And yeah, because I think at the time, part of their funding was gotten from attendance records. And so my grades were fine. Like I was like high 70s, low 80s. And I was just skipping school all the time because I was off making movies and, doing this and that.
Yeah.
And so I did not graduate. Never went back for it either.
Hell yeah. And look at you
Exactly.
now.
And look at me now. I'm on the This Movie's Gay podcast. I'm not being sarcastic.
That's the real goal. I mean, if I wasn't a host, I would absolutely like, hello, get me on this goddamn podcast.
You'd come on the show and be like, hey, I have a question. Why are you just a straight person doing a single man podcast about queer films? It's cool, I guess.
Question, James. It would be me yelling at you.
It just wouldn't be the same without James, though. It's such a good hook. It's people talking about gay movies, but one of them straight. It's like I love the pitch.
That I am not a podcast person, and literally James and I worked together, and he was just like, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, no, I do not. And he was like, do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, no, not at all. And he's like, but please, like a podcast. Yeah. I said, no. And he was like, well, what if we do it on gay movies? And I was like, fine, you fucking god damn it. Yes, I will. That's how it happened.
Awesome. All right. Next, what else you got, James?
Yeah, let me just go through some starred notes. Oh, okay. So, what's her Anita Bryant? I did some research on her, and she got divorced from her husband, who was also like a rich man heir or whatever. And in a report, someone said like, hey, do you blame the gays for your divorce? And this is a quote. He said, blame gay people? I do. Their stated goal was to put her out of business and destroy her career. And that's what they did. It's unfair. She wanted to illegalize people. How is that fair? So,
she literally wanted to strip rights away from people. So, you know what? Like, your career's ruined. Yeah, that's like eye for an eye, Anita Bryant.
Get fucked, Anita.
And then make it more like the irony coming out of her mouth, everyone started boycotting the orange juice that she promoted. They dropped her. Then when she got divorced, the church, who she was a religious figure, she would perform at churches, they started shunning her because she was a divorced woman. And then she was like, oh, I really want the church to just start recognizing divorced women and not demonize them. And it's like, fuck you.
That's so funny. She was basically canceled. It was like their version of as canceled as you could be back then.
I love that. Also from the chat, Hit People Guy said someone needs to get some new trivia. It sounds like maybe something about your favorite food or color. So there's something for you, Chris.
Thanks. No, I'm gonna add on to the trivia because it'll say dropped out of high school, and then it'll say did not go back. So every year I'll add like a different little tidbit like that. It'll just be the worst.
Grades were good.
There was on the hit podcast This Movie's Gay.
100%. Yeah, that's the kind of trivia I want.
The trivia. Yeah, James, rattle through the rest.
Yes.
Go.
Very now in hindsight, Harvey Milk was talking about bringing up quotes from American history, and he brings up what is at the base of the Statue of Liberty, and he's like, and you can't change those words. And it's like, oh brother, because the Trump administration did.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
No.
It's bad.
If only he knew.
Yeah, it would have been real. Oh man. Dennis O'Hare plays the perfect real life villain, not like an over the top person. He, because American Horror Story in the first season, he's so good at being hateable, but not to the point where you're like, oh, just get him off screen. Like you're like, I want to hate this person.
But you don't hate him. That's because he's gay in real life. Mm-hmm. So, which is so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Leslie Jordan. That's
Leslie Jordan.
Yeah. He's in American Horror Story and Sordid Lives, right?
Sordid Lives. Yeah.
There's a video that it's just I saw it recently and it made me laugh very hard. It's him with a front facing phone and he's just goes, I'm about to bust. And it's so funny, guys. Look that video up.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
I have demoted myself, Corwin, you know this. I've demoted myself many times. And if these people, and I've said hey, I'm going to quit, I'll demote myself, whatever. If they were like, hey, we're not going to let you do that. Just you can't have your job back. You're done. I'm not going to go in and shoot people. And the fact that this bitch got 7 years for assassinating public figures and got out on, I guess, good behavior, only served 5, is mind-boggling.
And you know his defense, the Twinkie defense?
Yeah, I read that. That's so fucking stupid.
Isn't that fucked? Isn't that fucked that that's like, I first heard of the Twinkie defense when it was like parodied in something, and I thought like it was a joke. But that the defense, like real lawyers in a court of law said that he had eaten too many Twinkies and junk food, that he was not in the right state of mind. And like that worked apparently. And then, well, I mean, he got off on good behavior, but then he killed himself 2 years later. So what does that tell you?
He's like, hey, this is when my sentence would have ended.
Yeah.
Let's just do it now.
Yeah. Every single time I see him on screen, every single time I watch this movie, he makes me irrationally angry. Like, I'm just so angry every time I see him.
I know, but he's so good. Like Josh Brolin.
Great. Yeah.
Such a good job of like I actually think he's the best character in the. I mean, aside from like obviously Sean playing Harvey Milk is amazing. He won an Oscar for it. But like Josh Brolin, I think Josh Brolin was nominated for best supporting. I could be wrong, but he should have been either way, because he does such a good job of humanizing him. Like you hate him, but when he's talking, like you're not like you understand like kind of where he's coming from. Like and you kind of slowly see like the gears turning, that not everything's quite there for him. You know, like kind of towards the end of the movie. I just think like he was so good.
Also, I didn't know like the full story of this going in, but when I was like, I read it, like I saw in the synopsis that he is the one who murders Harvey Milk. So I was like, when it started, I was like, how does this break bad here? Yeah. They seem on okay terms. So
well, yeah, completely.
And then when I teared up, I almost started crying at just the like simple no when he's about to be shot. But in the epilogue, when there's multiple like, and continues to do this to this day, because in most of these movies we see that, you know, died of AIDS or committed suicide, like these tragic things. And it was just very nice to see these people still at it and working to make things better. Yeah.
I teared up. I teared up twice. Obviously, once she's shot, but also in near the beginning when Harvey Milk gets a call from a young boy in Minnesota who's in the wheelchair, and he says like, I'm gonna kill myself tonight, and Harvey, you know, convinces him not to, and then the kid eventually gets on a bus and ends to California and votes for him. That was like that hit me. It just hit me right in the feels, because it was just so like that kind of stuff happened all the time. I mean, it still does. And just seeing that is like that's why that sequence just perfectly captures why what Harvey Milk was doing was so important for somebody to turn on the TV and just see somebody like them for the first time ever in their entire lives, and know that they could go somewhere, that they could go to a place with all these other gay people and be themselves. And I will say there's a bit of trivia in Summerland, which is actually true, about why San Francisco became the gay capital of the country. And that's because when they were serving in the military in Vietnam, if they were found out that they were gay, they would get a blue slip and they'd get sent home. They'd get basically deported. And the closest port was San Francisco. So they'd get off the boat, but so many of them wouldn't want to go home because they had a piece of paper that said that they were discharged from the military for being gay. They couldn't get home. They couldn't go home. So they stayed in San Francisco. So that's actually why San Francisco became that hub. And then, of course, through the movement, people are seeing this movement on the TV. Everyone just flocked to San Francisco from all over the country.
Hell yeah!
I remember that trivia and I love it. One of my favorite moments from your movie. I also teared up 2 times or 3 times, and it's literally when we first have that phone call, same spot. I tear up there, and then whenever it recalls and he calls later, that's when the waterworks come. I'm like, hey,
it's like tears of joy. It's like good tears though, right? Because you're like, he didn't kill himself.
Yeah. And then of course whenever Victor Garber gets shot and then Milk gets shot, I'm a mess. That's also why I haven't watched it with James, because like we were watching movies together like at the same time, and I'm not gonna cry with James.
Yeah.
You're fine watching borderline softcore pornography and eating out, sitting on the same couch together, but
Well, you don't cry. You don't cry when you're watching.
Not
that.
gonna
Or something
cry.
you do. Yeah.
you just feel very
James is
uncomfortable.
sobbing.
James cries.
James did cry in front of me once, and I was like, "Do you hug?"
Was it an ugly cry? Was it an ugly? I'll bet it was an ugly cry.
No, it was when Frank was diagnosed with cancer, and it wasn't. If you would have been around like when we had to put him down, it would have.
James, it was an ugly cry. It was an ugly cry, and I was very happy to give you a hug for it.
Oh, okay.
Your guys' friendship is the glue that's holding this podcast together.
I'd hope so. Like, I think that's how all podcasts should be. It's friends talking. Then it's just kind of odd.
Yeah.
It's just two people that hate each other. Like, oh, I hate you so much.
I mean,
when are we doing the next episode?
I have heard some podcasts like that, but like they're friends who just get on each other's nerves. It's usually like comedy podcasts that are like that. Like the Doughboys, if you've ever heard that, it's very much like that.
Yeah.
That'd be fun too. So I have a question for you, Corwin.
Yes.
Where do you, in regards to the movie, because this is a perfect chance to bring this up because I have some thoughts as well. And James, the question applies to the board. What are your thoughts on straight actors playing gay roles? Because and the reason to bring it up in this is that Sean Penn does such an amazing job playing Harvey that I really feel like it is the perfect segue to this question. Corwin, what are your thoughts?
So I've talked about this before. My thoughts are stop doing it. Straight people, stop doing it. Stop doing it. The Prom, irrationally angry. Hate it. Stop doing it. It is 2021. There are experiences that queer people have that straight people are not going to have that I would rather see them acting. Also, the amount of opportunities for queer people are so much fewer. So there's no reason that you need to get a straight actor in there because there are plenty of queer actors. And, a lot of people say, well, I want to be able to play any role. And it's like, yes, you want to be able to play any role. That's what any actor wants to do. But should you play any role?
So how do you, if I may, with regards to like Sean, and again, people have to remember this movie was made 13 years ago, 2008, shot in 2007. So very, very different time. But what are your feelings towards Sean Penn playing Harvey Milk? I mean, I guess not to say like what would your feelings be if that was happening now today, I think, but just like when you watch the movie, Corwin, are you thinking like, oh, a gay actor should have played this role, or like, where do you stand on that in regards to Milk?
In regards to Milk, I always look at something like, it is a product of its time, in that sense that, that was before we started moving into, wanting more queer actors to play queer characters and things, not really having a lot of queer characters on screen to begin with. So I think it would have been nice to have a queer man play Harvey Milk. It would have been nice to honor him in that sense, especially because he is such a big gay activist. But I am, for the time itself, I'm more happy that the movie got made than to be disappointed that it was a straight actor playing that part.
That's how I feel as well. I think that the importance of the movie being made and telling Harvey's story accurately, and just after talking with Cleve Jones, who basically said like it was the spitting image of Harvey Milk. Like it was like sometimes he couldn't even look at him or talk to him. It was so hard for him because Sean Penn did such a good job. And I think the importance of that and telling that story properly and doing Harvey justice, which he obviously did, that outweighs this particular debate for the time. I think there should be more nuance in the conversation. Like, for example, like I'll put it this way. I'm not against straight actors playing gay roles. It depends on there's more, context is everything. It depends on the role, depends on the movie. If it's just a money grab, then that's bullshit. Like Scarlett Johansson wanted, it's like they can only sell the movie with Scarlett Johansson. I think that's bullshit. Money should never be an issue.
Literally hit people. Guys said it could have been worse. They could have hired Scarlett Johansson for it.
I love that. I love how now, she's the butt of all of those jokes.
Deservedly.
Yeah. Totally deservedly. Yeah, but recently, James Corden was nominated for The Prom. The Prom, yeah. And so I have an issue with it, as most people do, but not because he was straight, because people are saying he played the role so over the top and so stereotypically, which is true, but like the problem is with the role, like the part, like it's this gay stereotype that it should not have been James Corden for starters. But I think the problem is bigger than just whether the actor is gay or straight or bi. You know what I mean? Like I'm not against it. Like if it does do the role justice and tells the story in a way that is actually that person is the only person for the job, then I fully support it. But James Corden playing that role, like he should not have been nominated for it just because it was a terrible role.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The problem is bigger. Like the problem is with the role was written poorly, and then getting a straight actor in that role just made it even worse.
So specifically with that role is a very stereotypical gay man, and it's like, it's also telling a story that so many gay men have, with coming out and being ostracized and kicked out of the home and all that stuff, and to have a straight guy go in there and be very flamboyant and put a lisp on and all that stuff. It's like, this isn't authentic. It's not good, and you definitely shouldn't win anything for it. You shouldn't have taken the role, especially when you had Andrew Reynolds right there. Just right there. He was right there. He could have done that. Or literally anyone else. So yeah, if I would agree that, if there's literally no other choice, but in what situation will we get in when the casting, there is no other choice?
True. Yeah. And I think Milk is definitely its own conversation just because of the time. I would like to, but with the James Corden example, it's like, oh, if this is how the role is going to be written, like this stereotypical role, then get a gay guy in there. Cause there's an authenticity there that you're not going to get from James Corden.
Not at all.
But again, the problem is not just with, you can't summarize the problem in gay character played by straight actor. The problem actually comes before that with a poorly written character, with just a stereotype of a character. That's actually where I think the bigger issue that needs to be addressed is, like anything today, you can't just summarize it in a clickbait headline. You know what I mean? There's always going to be a bigger issue with that. But anyways, that's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to say one quick. I've never seen this movie, but if someone who is gay was playing that character, they could have then said "Hey, I think this is stereotypical and it is a little over the top.
This doesn't read right."
Yeah, please.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's just the tears for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you have any final notes and things, James or Chris?
No, I think I have everything that I needed to say, I think.
Sweet. Yeah. I don't want to keep you too long, Chris. You're busy. You're busy. You're
not keeping me. Don't worry. This is my life today.
Hell yeah.
I love it. It absolutely has been amazing having you on here. And if you're down, you 100% should be on future episodes. Perfect.
I'd love to. I'm gonna give you guys some horror. If you guys like gay horror movies, I'll give you. There's a few. Please. There's a few that I produced. We kind of got into a gay horror movie trend happily. Yeah. So yeah, it was good. We got one with lesbians and then one with two dudes. Just we went one end of the spectrum to the other.
Hell yeah.
We definitely need more gay lesbian movies lesbian horror movies because we've done
two
or three on the podcast, and one of them is James' least favorite movie.
Yes, Make a Wish. You can only find on DVD from, I guess, Blockbuster. And then Knife Plus Heart. If you haven't seen that, Chris, watch it. It's a French horror movie. It is so fucking good.
The Perfection.
So that's the good one. What's the other one called? So I know to avoid it.
Make a Wish.
You probably can't find it.
You
honestly.
cannot find it.
I'm not gonna try.
They just had to order it special on DVD.
Yeah.
And then also The Perfection. That one.
Oh, yeah.
That one too.
I've got another one. It's not gay themed at all, but we're just to kind of add to your repertoire of horror movie knowledge with gay characters. It's called The Invitation, and it's just a simple culty horror movie. Some shit goes down at a dinner party, but there's a gay couple in the movie as main characters. Like just cause, like it's not a big plot point. They're just like, it's just a gay couple. Like it's a dinner party, right? So there's a bunch of different couples. One of them is gay. And which is just awesome. It's just like, it's never talked about. It's just there. And I'm a big fan of that in movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously the stories like Milk and Call Me by Your Name are very important stories to tell too. But I want to see more movies that just have gay characters where they're not tropes, they're not stereotypes. And it's also not a big plot point. It's not about, you know what I mean? It's not about the gay character coming out and struggling with their life. Again, important stories to tell. But the more we can the more like normalized characters are in it, where there's just gay characters, just cause, like that's like the world I want to see like in the next like 5 years.
That's my ultimate goal with like, having people watch queer film is that I want more. We want sword and sand movies or sword and sorcery movies and all those that just have gay characters. Like I just want gay people on the screen.
And that's why when we were doing the gay horror movies, we were like, we're like, well, yeah, like why can't gay people die in horror movies too? You know what I mean? We're like, how, like we want to be in horror movies. So like that very much
die the second to last, and it must be a very tragic, heroic death.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I think we touched pretty much like everything in the movie that I can think of. I felt real bad for James Franco's character, and Anne, who is in a few movies, and I can't remember her name. And the lesbian, yeah, just like at the end where they were going to the memorial, just like no one's here, and then they like see the like flood of candles at the Castro, and just like tears streaming down my face. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, Chris. Gotta have you again.
Hell yeah.
Very glad that you tweeted at us so that I could tweet back and be like, hello, yes, please.
Well, I've had an awesome time. You guys are great. I'm so down to do this again. I'll send you some awesome gay horror movies to hopefully have on future episodes. And this is good. We covered lots. We covered like some history, some politics. We covered some relevant issues, like all stuff that's near and dear to my heart. So I could talk about this movie for hours. So thank you so much, guys, and I hope we can do it again.
Hell yeah! What you got to plug?
Yeah, tell us thing. Like you can talk about your Instagram or Twitter or like throw in all those like movies. Say anything.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram. It's Chris Ball, BAWL. And we actually do have a new gay horror movie out on Shudder. It's called Spiral. It's very cool, very creepy. It's very culty as well. And that's all I'll say about it. Check it out on Shudder. It's called Spiral. And also Summerland, more importantly, definitely Summerland's the fun movie you want to see. If you don't want to get creeped out all the time. You want a fun gay horror movie, fun for the whole family. It's called Summerland. You can rent it on iTunes, Amazon, and Google.
Heck yeah.
Also, a last note, Dolly said, and Chris's shirt is so cool. So the floral relation,
yes. Thank you. Right? It's my podcast shirt.
Yeah. James has a podcast jacket. You've got a podcast shirt. Oh my God. Meant to be on here today. The plugs I've got, follow me on Twitch. For those of you listening in the podcast and Apple and all those places, it's twitch.tv/corewinning. And that's the same with my socials, Instagram, Twitter, all of those things at corewinning. It's the brand I've gone with. Let's go. And then if you would like, my theater company's doing things at Saltbox Theater Collective. Please follow them. I think it's just Saltbox Theater, actually. But yeah, Saltbox Theater Collective. Google them. Find them. Look at things they've done. And yeah, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all that at This Movie's Gay. And those are my plugs.
James.
Hey guys, listen, find out information about my other podcasts such as Mostly Speaking Sentai, Hit It and Crit It, and What the Hellmouth over on MLMpod.com. And head over to our Patreon where we're doing exclusive podcasts such as Talking About Beyblade, Engage with Nicolas Cage, the Toku Reading Corner, and the Podcast That Be. That's patreon.com/MLMpod. Gonna give a quick shout out to our $10 patrons. That's Steve F., Eric Berry of Ranger Command Power Hour, Alex Z., Orion, Kayla, Duo Grunfox, Tyler Wright, and Elliot W. at Garlic Sunshine. And please listen to my music wherever music is found under Marsh, Land, Monster. That's 3 words.
And you want to shout out our Patreon page for what?
Wait, I just did.
Yes. You did all the $10 ones?
Yeah, I literally just did that.
He totally did. He totally just did. I'm a witness.
Wow. Sorry, I was just trying to put Chris's Instagram on the chat. All right. I've been Corwin.
I've been James.
Chris Ball, bye.
See you guys. Bye. This has been a Marshland Media production, produced by James McCullum. For more content, please visit MLMpod.com. To support our network and have access to exclusive podcasts, head over to patreon.com/MLMpod and sign up today.